1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay.
Well, almost there. Boy, it is cold, isn't it? Huh? It's cold. Not freezing, but cold. Oh, 45.
Supposed to be up to 50. Gentlemen, as we approach, we're going to set it on the rollers. As we set it on the rollers, everybody's going to be coming down even. First two gentlemen step back as soon as we step. First two gentlemen step back. Next two gentlemen step back. Thank you, Paul Barrett. We appreciate all your help. Ladies and gentlemen, please gather around the tent for the rabbi family in front, please. Set.
Mizmor David. Adonai roi lo echsar bin astashi arbitzeni al menuchos tinaleni nafshi shove v'ancheni b'maglei tzedek l'man shmo gam ki elech b'geit salmaves lo irara ki ato imodi shiftecho mishantecha hemo yenachamuni taroch lefonai shulchan neged soveroi dishanto v'shem and roshi kosi revoyo achto v'chesed yerdefuni kol yimei chayai Shavti v'veis Adonai li'orech yamim. The Psalm of David, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. God causes me to lie down in green pastures, He leads me by tranquil waters. God restores my soul and guides me in righteous paths for His name's sake. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for You are with me, Your rod and Your staff. They comfort me. You prepare a table before me in full view of my adversaries. You have anointed my head with oil. My cup overfloweth. May only goodness and kindness pursue me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Ashrei Elisha asher lo halach b'tzas b'shoyim derech chatoim lo amod, v'moshav leitzim lo yashuv, ki im b'saras Adonai chefetzo, ובשרסו נהגה יומם בלילה ויוק העץ שסול על פלגי מים אשר פריו ייתן ביתו ועולה לו יבול בכל אשר יעשה יצליח לא כן הרשעים כי אם כמות אשר תדפן הרוח על כן לא יקום הרשעים במשפט וחטאים בעדת צדיקים כי יודע אדוני דרך צדיקים בדרך רשעים טובים. Happy is the one who has not followed in the counsel of the wicked nor stood in the path of sinners nor sat in the company of the scornful, rather that one's delight is in the Torah, meditating day and night, and will be like a tree planted by streams of water, that yields its fruit in its season, whose leaf will not wither. Whatever one does prospers, not so the wicked who are like chaff. Therefore they shall not survive judgment. God loves the way of the righteous. Mizmor leDavid Adonai miyagur ba'olechem yishkon b'har kodshecha olech tamim fal tzedek v'dover emes b'levavo Lo regala l'shano lo asal l'reo rav cherpa lo nasal k'rovo nivze beinav nimas Yisrei Adonai yichabed nishpa l'harav lo yamir kaspo lo yitain b'nesha v'shochad al nokilo lo kacha se'ila lo yimot li'olam. The Psalm of David, who may sojourn in your tent, who may dwell upon your holy mountain, one who walks in purity and does what is righteous and speaks truth from the heart, one who has no slander on his tongue, nor has not done harm to a fellow, nor casts disgrace toward a neighbor, in whose eyes a contemptible person is repulsive, but who honors those who are in awe of the Lord, who swears truthfully even to personal hurt, and never retracts, who does not lend money on interest, nor takes a bribe against the innocent. One who does these things shall never falter. Known Mark and his family since I came to Kesher, Israel 8 years ago, and of course Aryeh knew even before that in St. Louis during his time there. Mark had really an incredibly unique ability to both be an advocate and to herald a way for the Jewish people and the Jewish nation and the Jewish country. He was so involved for so long, from way back Soviet Jewry, the state of Israel, defending the Jewish people as a nation. But he also was somebody who cared on such a deep personal level about the Torah and about the commandments. Remember on Shavuos, when he debated somebody else, he took, I think, the side of Korach against Moshe. And not only did he, it wasn't some superficial argument, he had really learned the Torah. He had really learned the commentaries. He had given his own thought to it. When one time many times he gave drushas at Kesher Israel, and one time, usually it was when I was away, but when I was there, I got to hear him once. And I learned new things about the Torah that I had never heard before, because he was somebody who not only studied the Torah on a deep level, but brought his worldly knowledge to it. But not only was Mark someone who acted on behalf of the Jewish people and the world, on such a large political and national level. Not only was he somebody who personally felt a deep love and respect and learning for Torah, but he also was a humble individual who sat and davened and who anybody could approach. And when you came to Mark, he greeted you with a smile. He was so easy. And that combination of the national, the interpersonal, and the personal sense of Torah and Avoda, that is such a rare thing. Many people, they might be friendly to an individual, but on a national level, they're not trying to save the Jewish people. Or they may study Torah, but they're not so attuned to those who are sitting next to them in shul. To do all three, as Mark did them, is to truly be a Jewish Renaissance man. And the purpose of eulogies, and we'll hear from all the family members, the purpose of eulogies is, I think, to learn from the departed. And from Mark, we can really learn just so much. We'll ask Randy Mellman owes Mark's sister to say a few words.
One of the greatest joys of my life, one of my greatest blessings, was Big Mark's sister. Every time I heard him say, "This is my sister," I got a jolt of joy. He was so good to me. He was that rare kind of brother that included me in things most big brothers would not. We hung out in so many places, at APAC conferences, at UJA Federation events, at protests for Soviet Jewry. I visited him at college multiple times at Princeton and Yale. We went on trips to Israel and New York and Cayman. And many times when he was just hanging out with his friends and his amazing family, he included me. He was always the life of the party. He was always so much fun to be around. He laughed at all my stupid jokes with his big laugh. And he was so funny that I often laughed so hard I cried. I think it's the laughter that I'll miss most of all. Mark was always so full of life, and he fought so hard after his diagnosis just a year ago, after many rounds of chemo and surgery and radiation and more. He was scuba diving in Cayman. Mark always chose life. Mark was my rock. He was my island in a storm. He was always there for me, no matter what. For every day of my 67 years, my big brother was there for me. He had an incredible appreciation and love and respect for family, including the ones that came before him. So much so that he requested to be buried in our mother's father's tallit. That's our cousin Charles and Mark and my grandpa Lou. Mark had this way of talking to people, whether he knew them well or he had just met them and would never see them again. He always looked at them intently, asked them a lot of questions, and made them understand that he was truly interested in whatever they were saying. People could feel his genuine warmth and interest. Mark was warm, kind, funny, brilliant, modest, and full of life. All of these qualities made him a person that had many friends and acquaintances, as well as a number of really good, truly special friends. Mark cherished his relationships with the people that were close to him. I think he summed it up best himself. When we were in Boston, after his 12-hour Whipple operation, a few of his closest friends and a few of his family members were gathered around the Shabbat table when Mark said, "I am so blessed because I have friends that are like family and family that are like friends." Well said, Mark.
That's Mark Sunny Deed.
Yeah, but I knew.
Thank you all for coming. Over the past few days, there has been an overwhelming number of articles, posts, acknowledgments, praising my dad and his work in politics, and even more importantly, for Jews in the state of Israel. I can think of only one word that encapsulates all of this, and that is legend. My dad was an absolute legend. Although as modest as he was, he would never in a million years use that word to describe himself or allow anyone else to describe him that way. So Dad, I'm sorry, but it's true. He was devoted to his family, my mom, my brother, my sister, his grandkids, Sister Randy and her family, and our approximately 400 closest relatives. If there was a wedding, bar mitzvah, bat mitzvah, funeral for anyone in that small circle of about 400, he'd be there, often dragging us halfway across the country with him. Some of my favorite memories of him were sitting around the Shabbat table. Growing up, we were constantly hosting visitors and new members to the community. My dad would greet them with a warm smile, making them feel instantly at ease, making for some pretty epic Shabbat table conversations. But the best moments of those meals would be his stories. He was a master storyteller. As a kid, I would constantly ask him to tell me stories, which my oldest son now asks me to do for him. My dad would tell stories from when he was little, some of which, like his detective agency story, were so elaborate at this point I wonder if they were made up or not. My favorite was The Sword and the Stone, which I tell my son Levi sometime at night before bed. And I hope one day to be able to tell him as well as my dad told me. Not only did he tell us all these great stories from all over the world, he showed us the world, taking us on unforgettable trips to national parks, to visiting his hometown of Columbus, Ohio, where he narrated a story from every street, every house we passed, or our annual trips to Cayman, or simply going to the movies every Sunday afternoon as a family. He made sure to prioritize quality family time. In fact, sharing my dad's love for history and archaeology had me convinced for a little too long that I wanted to be Indiana Jones professionally. When I realized that wasn't really an option, I settled for making movies instead. Despite my dad's love of academia and multiple impressive degrees, he could not have been more supportive of my career choice, and despite it being a little bit off the beaten path, and for that I was always grateful. My dad was always there to make us smile, with a hint of sarcasm and unmatched ability to deliver a punchline. We could always count on him to lighten the mood and make us laugh. He truly spent his life doing tikkun olam and making an incredible mark on everyone here today, and so many more. Dad, you are an absolute legend, and I could not be prouder to be your son. I will miss you today and every day.
Bless Mark's daughter, Mira.
My dad was an absolute legend, not only because of his extraordinary career, but because everyone loved him and always wanted to be around him. I always felt so privileged that I got to be his daughter and know him in a way that no one else did. I knew how to make him laugh. I knew what would make him happy. I knew how to make him proud, and I definitely knew how to annoy him. Annoying him was easy. I could do that by asking him personal questions he didn't want to discuss with me, making him talk about his feelings, or being too loud in public places and embarrassing him. He tried to teach me how to be a funny person, but usually ended up laughing at me instead of with me. He was happy whenever I came home, especially when I brought his favorite desserts from his preferred bakeries in New York. And he always appreciated how I took the initiative to get our family together to spend time. He got a kick out of the fact that in a family of competitive intellectuals, I was the only one of the 5 of us that were Phi Beta Kappa, and he was proud that I worked so hard to earn that distinction. My dad was the smartest person I knew, but that didn't keep him from teaching me even very simple things to me. When I was little, he taught me how to pronounce my R's in the same way that Annie Sullivan taught Helen Keller how to speak in the movie The Miracle Worker. He taught me how to add and subtract. He would ask me math problems and I would say, "Fingers," and he'd hold up his fingers and I would use them to count. He shared his love of music with me at an early age when he had me watch a Woodstock documentary. Don't worry, he covered my eyes during the inappropriate parts and the band's last performance, The Last Waltz. He loved to sing, but only in private, and would often just sing the same few lines over and over again, so we only knew a few lines of lots of different songs. He was always the life of every party. He loved to dance so much so that he tore his ACL dancing at Ariel Goldstein's wedding. It's a family joke that whenever I'm with everyone, I bring the fun. But really, my dad brought the fun. Every family meal, every trip was just more enjoyable when he was there. He would even make going to the grocery store fun, finding the most comically large products to jokingly ask if we should get them, or start dancing and singing for us when we got too bored. Everyone always wanted to hear his opinion on what was going on in the world, so much so that people would even ask me what he thought. People loved to hear his stories and takes on the world, but he always preferred to hear what was going on in their lives. When my dad was working on John Kerry's presidential campaign in 2004, I remember thinking my dad should just run for president and then I would get to live in the White House. And I thought he had a real chance at winning since all the Jews and Democrats would vote for him. He rejected my idea and said he was more of a behind-the-scenes type of guy. When I used to ask him if he was a celebrity, he would always say, only in a very, very small circle. My dad loved to travel, and when he turned 50, he became extremely interested in hiking. All of our summer family vacations became hiking trips. He bought all the gear so we looked like experts, even though we were the slowest ones on the mountain. Every time the hike got difficult, he'd say, "Okay, where's the chopper?" When my siblings were all going on trips with their significant others, I said to my parents, just because I don't have someone, I don't get to go on a trip? Let's go somewhere. This worked 2 years in a row. My dad booked his trips to Maine and to Shenandoah, and I got to have my own trip with my parents. Speaking of trips, we would almost never miss our no less than 2-week vacation to the Cayman Islands, the best 2 weeks of the year. My dad was so adamant that we had to continue going every year that he even wanted us to go this year, even though he knew we would be without him. In over 40 years, my family only missed going 3 times: for a hurricane, for COVID, and when my mom was 8.5 months pregnant. This trip was not only meaningful as much as a much-needed vacation break. It was particularly important for my dad because it was a rare occasion for our extended family of second, third, and fourth cousins to meet and continue our family connections into the future. He always made such great efforts to show up for his family and friends. When we were planning our weddings, it was always so hard for him to have to take anyone off the guest list. I learned so much from this example, and I tried to live up to it by showing up for him when he needed me when things were hard these last few months and years. Over the years, he accumulated 3 million miles just on one airline, traveling all over the world for work. He would also fly across the country and back to make sure to attend any family event, and he expected us to do the same. During the height of COVID, when he was sick of staying at home, he amused me by listing his favorite spots in each airport and city he frequented. From hotels to shoe polishing kiosks to open-air markets. He used to bring us salmon from Seattle in his carry-on, melting on a bed of ice. I will miss everything about my dad. I will miss talking him to sleep on Friday nights. I will miss him showing me videos of various concerts. I will miss watching TV together and him getting upset if I wasn't paying attention. I will miss going to the movies together, even if I did fall asleep the majority of the time. I will miss making him laugh until we cried. I will even miss him yelling at me. I will miss being forced to watch CNN, and I will miss getting emails of articles that had a headline of something we mentioned one time. He made the world a better and brighter place, and the world will not be the same.
That's Marcus and Arya.
as children, people tend to view their parents as larger than life, all-powerful figures. Then, as you get older, you come to realize that your parents are regular people, just like anyone else, trying to do their best. I had something of the opposite experience. As I gained more knowledge and awareness, I came to realize that while he certainly had his particular human foibles, my dad truly was larger than life, and his legend grew with every new thing I learned about him. You realize that whenever you meet someone for the first time who knows him, or even knows of him, they all say, always in the same awestruck tone, "Oh, you're Mark Mellman's son." You realize that when you're comparing your first jobs out of college, and you are a research assistant, and he was the executive director of an organization working on behalf of Soviet Jewry, and he hadn't even finished college yet. And you realize that when you think about who's been at your Shabbat table in recent weeks, and it's senior government officials, ambassadors, decorated academics, and they're not just there, they want to know exactly what Mark Mellman thinks about the topics of the day. Even more impressive, you really realize that your dad is a special person when all of the above is true, but he remained a modest, humble, empathetic, and generous person. I can't talk about my dad without talking about his work, even though I was only lucky enough to see him in action a handful of times. Most people get one dream job if they're lucky. He had 3. The only 3 jobs he ever really had, each of which advanced aspects of his most cherished values. As executive director of the Committee of Concerned Scientists, his work on behalf of Soviet Jewry expressed his commitment to freedom and Jewish peoplehood. His work at the Mellman Group, where he spent the bulk of his career, focused on trying to elect Democratic candidates who aligned with his values: a strong social safety net, opportunity, protection from discrimination. And his third act at the MFI gave him an outlet for his love of Israel, working to bolster the party's pro-Israel champions. His work was meaningful, but he also thoroughly enjoyed it. He was a political junkie at heart. He loved the action. There was nothing more thrilling to him than winning a tough race he was projected to lose, but that he thought he might win. He always had fun working at CBS on election nights, being the first to know what was happening as the returns came in. He was experienced enough that he played most things pretty cool, but I remembered how proud and almost giddy he was to be going to the swearing in of the Lapid-Bennett government in Israel in 2021. Through his work, he also got to travel. He loved this country, its mountains, its rivers, its national parks, and its airports. And he knew it backwards and forwards. Just a few weeks ago, I mentioned to him that I was working on a case based out of Rutland, Vermont, which I had never heard of. Without skipping a beat, he said, "Fly to Burlington and drive for 2 hours?" Of course, he was exactly right. And he saw the far reaches of the world: Albania, Mongolia, Colombia, the Philippines. His love of travel was part and parcel of his desire to learn. He was a voracious reader and made it through most of the nonfiction books on our shelves at home, and anyone who has seen them knows that is no small thing, and was well read enough to have an intelligent, thoughtful conversation on nearly any topic. He was very serious about his work, but as a person, he could be goofy as hell. I often found myself wondering what his very important clients would think if they saw him eating a huge piece of cake, shirtless, a paper napkin draped over his chest, laughing uproariously at the TV. His full laugh was a sight to behold, a full-bodied, doubled-over cackle that could be heard for miles. Sometimes we'd be at a movie theater, and he would be laughing louder than the rest of the theater combined. He had a habit of bursting out into song from his childhood whenever a scrap of conversation reminded him of a lyric. That would often be followed by, "You don't know that one?" Even if he was singing a theme song from a TV show in the 1960s that was on for 2 years and nobody but him remembered. He loved holding court at our shul, sitting in the corner seat that was his place for 40 years alongside a group of friends and admirers. I think he usually tried to keep the volume down, but sometimes they would be having too much fun and he'd laugh too hard, audible throughout the whole shul, of course, earning a glare from the gabbai. He loved to dance, eager to start tearing up the dance floor whenever we went to a wedding. That ended in minor disaster once when an ill-advised high kick at his close friend David Goldstein's daughter's wedding tore his ACL. He was not thrilled about having to roll around in a wheelchair or pull himself up the stairs in our house. But he managed to turn that experience into an exercise in empathy, writing a column in The Hill about his renewed respect and admiration for people who persevere through more permanent disabilities, earning an award from the Disability Rights Organization. Although he rubbed shoulders with important people, he never looked down his nose at anyone and always maintained a deep well of empathy for everyone around him. People would come up to him and ask him the same questions day after day. What do you think about this candidate? Who's going to win the election? But he always engaged with energy and attention, as if they had asked a fascinating question he couldn't wait to discuss. I did hate having to argue with him, and I'm sure I'm not the only one with this experience. Even when I was sure I was right, he was sharp and relentless. Despite politics being something of a zero-sum game, he wouldn't let it come in between genuine human connection. He would strongly argue his positions, but never let it detract from the humanity of the person on the other end of the conversation. He was very busy, but always generous with his time, ready to help people out with whatever they needed, whether that was a conversation, emailing a resume, or anything more difficult. He took literally the words of the Haggadah, let all who are hungry come and eat, and our Shabbat table and Pesach Seder were always open for anyone who needed a place. It happened more than once that people he knew needed help with expediting their passports, sometimes people he wasn't even that close with, and he wouldn't hesitate to jump on the phone with their congressman to get things sorted out. Above all, he was devoted to his family, and he considered a lot of people to be his family. He viewed his forebears with great reverence, taking care to mention numerous relatives by name whenever he spoke at a family event. Attending family events was a sacred obligation. No questions asked, no excuses. Didn't matter if it was too far or expensive or annoying to get to, or he was busy with work, which he always was. He was there, and usually the rest of us were too. Going from DC to Eugene, Oregon for a bar mitzvah with 3 small kids, easy. Grant came into Cincinnati for a funeral on a day's notice the week between Christmas and New Year's. He made it happen. Wedding in Ann Arbor, Michigan, right after Sukkot, such that we would have to stay there for 2 extra days prior. If it was possible, we were doing it. The care and strength he used to forge and nurture those family bonds are evident in his relationships with his second cousins, the Skilkins. Because of him, his grandchildren and theirs, 4th cousins, are beginning to develop their own close familial bonds. His friends were an extension of his family too. Friends from his youth like Ricky Schottenstein, Paul and David Goldstein, Phil Wax and Juliet Spitzer and their families, and an ever-expanding group of new friends all got the same treatment. And of course, there was us. When I was growing up, he traveled a lot for work and got home quite late even when he was home. On paper, you would think he resembled the dad from Cats in the Cradle or George Clooney's character from Up in the Air. But he made himself so present in our lives that I never once felt like that. He always made time to come to my basketball games where I might play for 12 minutes, or in my track meets where I might run for 12 seconds. And he would be looking at emails on his BlackBerry when I wasn't in the game, and that was before everyone was on their phones, but he was there for me. He was never a big sports fan, but Mordecai got us tickets to a then Redskins game one December when I was 14. The entire time we're driving up to the game, the people on the radio are talking about how the temperature is going to be in the teens, the coldest night of the year, but there was never a question that we would turn back, and he sat there under a mound of blankets, freezing his butt off, watching a game he didn't care about for 3 hours, just for me. Some of my fondest memories growing up are our Friday night dinners with just the 5 of us. Nowhere else to be, just talking, laughing, listening to stories till late at night. I liked my friends, but that was always the most fun I had all week. I'm lucky to consider my parents. 2 of my best friends. It is hard to lose a parent, doubly hard best friend at the same time. Pirkei Avot, Ethics of Our Fathers, in chapter 5, verse 21, contains a list of traits or attributes that apply to particular ages. For age 70, it says, Ben Shivim L'Seva, at 70, gray hair. This is derived from a verse in Divrei Hayamim, Chronicles, which says that King David, who died at 70, died B'Seva Tova, with a good gray head, translated literally, or more poetically, at a ripe old age. One commentator teaches that the word seva is used to highlight the similar word savea, complete or full, indicating that 70 is the term of a complete lifespan. And more generally in Judaism, the number 70 is used to connote a complete cycle or set. There are 70 nations of the world. Jacob's family had 70 people when he went down to Egypt. The Torah is said to have 70 faces or facets, and so on. I know he wanted more time, and we all wish we could have had more time with him. He had more work he wanted to do. There were a few more places he hadn't traveled to yet. There was more laughter and conversations to be had with friends and family, more time to be spent watching his grandchildren grow up. But in his 70 years, he put his principles first. He made his missions into his vocation. He was a loving husband and devoted father. He served his country, the Jewish people, the people of Israel, his friends and his family with passion and purpose, with respect and with decency. I'm going to end by quoting the last verse of Megillat Esther. It's a passage about Mordechai, which is also my dad's Hebrew name. My dad always found it amusing that as the author of the Megillah, Mordechai evidently wrote such a complimentary verse about himself. As I read it today, I can't help but think that Mordechai actually wrote the verse. About Mark Mellman. I'll read the Hebrew and then very lightly paraphrase in English. כי מרדכי היהודי משנה למלך אחשוורוש וגדול היהודים רצוי לרוב אחיו דורש טוב לעמו מדבר שלום לכל זרעו. For Mordechai, the Jew, was an advisor to world leaders, was highly regarded by the Jews, popular with the multitude of his brethren. He saw the good of his people and interceded for the welfare of all his kindred. Who can ask for a fuller life than the one Mark Mellman lived?
Yes, Mindy. Mark's got the stuff here.
Okay, this is gonna be tough. Can you hear me? Mark was both very complicated and also very simple. He was a mystery wrapped in a riddle inside an enigma. No, just kidding. I said that because he really loved a good quote. And that one combines the Soviet Union and Joe Pesci, two things that interested Mark. He had a subtle and complex mind, and it was a guiding principle for him to communicate difficult ideas in a direct and understandable way. In graduate school, Ed Tufte was one of his models. Mark loved the graph of Napoleon's invasion of Russia that Ed Tufte cited as one of the great statistical graphics, capturing 6 variables in 2 dimensions. In his writing, he believed that brevity was best, following the rule of thumb of keeping a letter or an email to 1 page. Nobody reads on to the second page, he would say. You'll lose your audience if you make it too long. Mark was not only an excellent writer, he was also a great classroom teacher and a great speaker. He was interesting and really funny. He was incredibly organized and spoke seamlessly, often without notes or perhaps with an index card or two. Some of you may not realize that he could speak this way from a young age. When he lettered in debate in high school, the other teams would come in with trays and tranches of index cards with their debating points and supporting facts. And he'd come in with one small box, and he would blow them away. He loved the visual. Speaking of minimalism, Mark was quite simple in his material needs. This is the man who ate peanut butter and jelly for lunch every single day from kindergarten through 12th grade, went to a movie every Saturday night, snowstorm or not, and had a closet packed with khaki pants and blue and white striped long-sleeved shirts. He loved his drinks. He would stick to his favorite for about 10 years or so. You might have known him in his grape soda decade, his Stewart's root beer period, or his Dr. Brown's Diet Black Cherry decade. He had an amazing, infectious laugh. Sometimes he would be the only audible laugher at a movie theater. On an airplane once, watching the film Walk Hard for the first time, he was laughing so hard but so uncontrollably that he was afraid they were going to kick him off the plane. And this was in the mid-air. Another time, we were at a hotel watching a comedian perform who was completely bombing. Mark felt so bad for him that he felt compelled to laugh out loud at every punchline. He was always thinking of the other guy. Even though he often came off as effortless and natural, Mark actually worked very hard to learn his craft. I remember when he and Ed Lazarus sat in our student apartment at Yale, just starting out the political consulting business they were calling information associates, and realized they knew nothing about media buys. After a conversation or two with the campaign they were working on, when honestly Mark knew he was faking it, he realized, hey, we really need to figure out what points are and how they work. And he madly researched the topic. This was before Google, before the internet even, until he felt he could hold his own. This passion for learning was a lifelong theme. And for Mark, learning was not only academic. He constantly expanded his horizons emotionally as well as intellectually. He came from a privileged background, but he related to people of every kind. One of the most telling stories is one he often told about himself. It illustrates his own humility, his ability to perceive his own shortcomings, as well as his emotional growth. In high school, he traveled to the then Soviet Union and Israel with a group of students that drew people from all over the country. Sitting around, introducing themselves, the conversation turned to the work people's parents did. One of the other students said that her father cut cloth for a living. Mark said, "Oh, he cuts cloth? You mean he owns a textile factory?" "No," she said, "he cuts cloth." "Oh, you mean he's a garment store owner?" "No, he was a cutter. He cuts cloth." "Oh, you mean he was a clothing designer?" "No, he works in a factory cutting the cloth." Mark was mortified that he had not been able to wrap his head around the fact that her background and life experience was so different from his. I think it was the last time he made the mistake of assuming that everyone else was just like him. It was a revelation to him and a turning point in what Flaubert would call his sentimental education. Now to the hard part. Our 3-year-old granddaughter, Sophia, who is processing death for the very first time, asked her mom, our beloved daughter-in-law, Talia, "When I die, will you stay with me?" One of the hardest things about navigating a terminal illness is the fact that you are ultimately traveling alone. I am thankful that not only could I be there for Mark as much as humanly possible, but also that our children, Yadid, Aryeh, and Mira, stepped away from their jobs and their families again and again over the last 4 years to gather around and hold their dad's hand so he would not be alone. We did stay with him. I know that if Mark could hear this, he would be correcting my memories right and left. No, it didn't happen like this. It happened like that. Kind of the way he would read newspaper articles about people he knew. The more you know about a topic, the more errors you see in the narrative. But I hope that he would understand that even if I have gotten some details wrong, I nonetheless have captured the essence as best I could. In our tradition, we say to mourners, Zichrono Livracha, may his memory be a blessing. For Mark, I would like to quote the more complete part of the phrase from Proverbs 10, verse 7, which says, Zecher Tzadik Livracha, the memory of a righteous person is invoked in blessing. For Mark was truly a tzaddik, a righteous and beloved person.
I'll ask Aaron Tessler, good chazan and fellow neighbor of Mark's from that storied corner of the Kesher Israel Synagogue.
El malei rachamim shochein bameromim Ametzei menucha nechona tachat kanefei השכינה במעלות קדושים וטהורים כזוהר הרקיע מזהירים לנשמת מרדכי שמואל בן עקיבא שהלך לעולמו בגן עדן תהי מנוחתו לכן בעל הרחמים יסתירהו בסתר כנפיו לעולמים ויצרור בצרור החיים עד נשמתו אדוני הוא נחלתו ינוח בשלום על משכבו ונאמר אמן.
We begin the actual kavura, the burial, which is a mitzvah. We call it a chesed shalemes, a mitzvah that is a true kindness, since it's a kindness that can never be repaid. It's the last true kindness that we do for somebody to see them on their way. As Jews, we believe that the body returns to dust, the soul is a part of God, and returns to God above. First time that you shovel, you can use the back of the shovel a few times to show our reluctance, and then you can shovel. The family will shovel, and then everybody is welcome to take part in the mitzvah. Friends, you can line up on both sides if you want to help with the kvura. After you use the shovel, you can stick it back in the dirt, and the next person can take it from the dirt.
They got me to say what I wanted to say.
Dude, I'm so sorry. No, they yeah, it was.
Stitch towards your dad and the organization. Plenty of good people that also that was like 20 years.
Wow. Yeah. How was your day down there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What? Wow. That's crazy. Yeah.
I can't believe you. I'm so sorry. I really love I'm gonna have help. Are you? I was crying. My mom. I was like, Mira is an incredible speechwriter. It wasn't just me. The editing process is hard. You wrote the foundation. Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm sorry I haven't seen you in book. What did you say? I'm sorry I haven't seen you in book. Oh, like I haven't either. It's fine. It's been crazy. It's okay. But we will hang out. I'm gonna come to your house. Okay.
So we've been working since 2020. You're fired for a year.
only one. The only one. And I was losing my mind.
No, we don't know what
I'm Mrs. Adele's daughter-in-law. Of course, at the time, I was in Cheshire for 10 years, but for half of those, I never heard of my husband. And I had no idea that my mother-in-law, future mother-in-law, was my teacher.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Jake the Elder is with us. Helpful from daily provision.
What did you
Okay. This coffee shop is not fair, but and Sammy is finishing in Southern Cal. Praise God. Coming up for Thanksgiving. Yeah. I miss it so much. I'm gonna stop working. Oh yeah. He didn't even care that much. I saw Arizona defeated Baylor, and that's important. Oregon, they were 7th. Yeah. School, no grad school for the kids.
Wait, I felt the slightest bit bad about mentioning it, but I figured it's long enough ago. You know, because it's true. Most people would have been like, oh, well, if we went, we'd have to stay there for like 3 extra days, so like we're just not gonna go. But of course, it was like, okay, so we'll just stay there. We'll just go to Ann Arbor. Like called up the Hillel and like we had our meal. We were in like I don't know, it was high school or something, and we just like had all our meals with the Hillel.
Yeah, when we
Sorry.
like the teams here.
We got 2 shout outs. It shows how like long He's so fitting. So like if you can't be here, you should be there.
I know.
But I didn't see anything else.
They seem to be teams.
But, park.
I'm honestly feeling which is really helpful. Yeah. He's a pony, so he like
Yeah, he's like up
yeah,
there.
he like happens
Oh,
to
he's
be a
right there.
pony.
Here, he's right there.
Oh, where? Oh, but you can't. Yeah, you can't like access it. I know. I know. Thank you.
Oh, I'm surprised.
Thank you.
I know.
Yes, I know. Thank you.
Oh.
Thanks so much. We really don't.
That's the best kind of day.
Smells like very confused.
Oh, really? Oh. Right. Yeah.
It's just like, just not. He can hear you.
Oh, hey, it's on. Hey, buddy.
Yeah, I
I'm getting everything I see from parents.
yeah, that's what I was asking about. I don't assume anything.
It's also, you should see how big these guys. I don't know, I can't get very far. You have to put, you don't know what that is. You don't know what the it did.
Yeah.
That's his experience.
Thank you so much.
We'll see you.
Sorry. Yes, yes, absolutely. Yes. Yeah, yeah.
You guys must have a crazy house. People have 3 with tables spread out. I know. Elise is always just like, I really like it. It's kind of freeing in a way. I just don't really care about anything. I'm just like, you know what? They're gonna be fine. It's all gonna work out. Like, yes, we
are. I wasn't sure if you're like.
It's good. It is. I do, but that's just random. I pick up in games and stuff. It's fun. Better than ever now. Yeah, more feeling it. Yeah, less fast stuff.
Rabbi? You can do that. You can go on the far side or close to you on the far side. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be stopping this moment for the shoveling. We'll go ahead and do cottage.
Say the final prayers.
Friends, we're going, since
Come back and cover all the ways. You're more than welcome to do that. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are parked around this perimeter, please note that there's going to be a service here momentarily. So if you do want to come back and cover to the top, if you can move your vehicle to that side, that'd be great. Okay. Thank you very much.
Friends, we're going to say two tefillot. We're going to say Tziduk Hadin, which is essentially a recognition that that God is just, even in the face of tragedy and loss. Then the mourners will say the special mourners Kaddish that is said at the cemetery. And following that, people can get their cars and start going. And those who would like to stay to help cover the rest of the grave can do that, and we'll finish covering it then. Since there's another funeral coming up, they got to move the cars. I'm going to say, I'll say Tziduk Hadin on behalf of the mourners. Hatsur Tamim Polo Ki Chol Derachav Mishpat El Emunah V'Ein Ovel Tzadik V'Yashar Hu. God is perfect. God's paths are just. Hatsur Tamim B'Chol Po Miyomer LaMasifa LaShal B'Matav B'Mal Memis M'Chayim Orit Shol V'Yol. Hatsur Tamim B'Chol Maaseh Miyomer Lov Mataseh Omer V'Oseh Chesed Chinam Lanu Taseh V'Schus Sanekad Kisag Shiva V'Aseh Tzadik B'Chol Derachav Hatsur Tamim. God is perfect in all of his ways. Erech HaPaimim Alei Rachamim. God is filled with mercy. Chal Lev Chusna Alavos Ubanim. Have mercy on parents and children. Ki Lecha Adonas Lichos Rachamim. You are the master of forgiveness and mercy. Tzadik Atah Adonai Lamisla Chayos. God, you are just in bringing to life and death. Asher B'Yadcha B'Kon Kol Ruchos Chol Lecha Zichronos Limchos V'Yun Alenecha B'Rachamim Aleinu B'Kuchos Ki Lecha Adonai Rachamim. Vaslichos Adam ben Shana Yiyah. If a person is 1 year old, Oelef Shanim Yechor, if they live to 1,000 years, my Yisron lo, what good would it be? Kalohoya Yiyah. At the end, they are like we never were. Baruch Dayon Emes Memis Machaya. Blessed is the true judge who brings life and death. Baruch Hu ki emes dino m'shote kol b'eino v'mishalim l'odem cheshbon v'dino b'kol ishmo doi yitzenu Yodeinu Adonai ki tzedek mishpatecha titztak b'dvarecha v'tizke b'shvatecha v'ein l'hara chamidas shvatecha Tzadik atah Adonai God, you are righteous v'yasher mishpatecha dayon emes shofet tzedek v'emes baruch dayon ha'emes shekom mishpatav tzedek v'emes Nefesh kol chai b'yadecha, the soul of all living is in your hand. Tzedek malei minecha b'yadecha. Rachem al pleitas tzon yadecha v'samar l'malach heref yadecha gadol eitza. Bravo alila asher yinecha pekuchos al chol derachei b'nei adam. L'seis lish kedercha v'chri ma'alav hagid ki ashar Adonai. Tzri v'lav v'lasaba Adonai nasan. Adonai l'kachi shem Adonai. Mevarach God gives and God takes away. May blessed be the name of the Lord. Hurachum yechaper avon v'le'ashkes v'val yeshiva po lo yo'ir kol chamaso. We'll say Kaddish. Yiskadal, Yiskadash, me rabba, Yomadu asad le'yitzchadita, l'akaya, me'taya, l'sokol chaye, omo, Mivnei karta d'Yerushalayim, l'shalchel, hecholach v'gavon, me'karpul kono. Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabba, Mevarach Le'elam, L'Omer Mayo. Very good. Amen. 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 In just a moment, we'll make two lines for the mourners to walk through, and we'll say, "Amakomi nachem etchem b'toch shara ve'letzion v'Yerushalayim." May God comfort you among your people, the mourners of Zion in Jerusalem. Shiva will be at 312 Cambridge Place in Georgetown. What did I say? Oh, 3012 Cambridge Place in Georgetown, between 30th and 31st. It'll be Monday through Wednesday, today until 8 p.m. There'll be Mincha and Ma'ariv today at 4:30 p.m. Monday through Wednesday, Shiva will be Shachrit at the Shiva home will be at 7:30 a.m. Mincha and Ma'ariv will be at 4:30 p.m. Shiva will be until 8 p.m. with a break from 12 to 2 with no visitors. Following that, Shiva will be Thursday and Friday in Kemp Mill, the home of Aryeh and Talia Mellman. And Yedidi will be sitting in West Orange, New Jersey from Monday onward. Tuesday morning on. We'll form two lines toward the hearse over there that the family can walk through. Anybody who would like to stay to help finish the kfura, please do.
Form two lines over here. If family wants to come through, go this way. Walk through first. We will say Makom, and then if you want to come back and help us come.
Right away. Oh, I did. All I did was get you. Yeah.
Friends, if you're not staying to finish the burial, they've asked that we move our cars because there's another funeral starting.